So I think what we'll do to kick off, we'll go along the panel, start with you, Rory. Just tell us a little bit about what you do.
I feel like Nicky did a pretty good job there, but essentially I look to bring more funding, equity specifically, unlike these guys with the debt side, and a bit of equity, but equity funders into the county. So for context, there's 0 equity funds that have offices in Lancashire. So every time I bring one in, it's an absolute win. But I put on events quarterly where I bring like 20 investors, 40, 50 Lancashire-based businesses and get them chatting. And then in between that, there's a bunch of connecting work. But essentially, so bringing more equity funds in, connecting them into our Lancashire businesses.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Mark Gibbons. I'm the lead advisor for the Access to Finance team, of course, in Lancashire. So I look after a team of 5, most of us in the audience this afternoon. So if there's any tricky questions, I know where to point them. Really the focus of what we do, and a little bit of what Simon touched on the previous panel, is critical, really, helping businesses get investment ready, making sure that they can access the funding that they need in order to grow. So whether that's debt, whether that's equity, or whether it's even, dare I say it, grant, there's often a sort of syndicated approach to the activity that we get involved in. And that's how we support businesses.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Martin Emmott. I'm the new kid on the block. I don't know whether the Backstreet Boys were around at that point in time, but I've been in post for 3 months, and I'm the new fund manager for Rosebud, as already been outlined. I basically see myself as a custodian of Rosebud's legacy. I'm here to carry on the great work that's been done before, and to make sure that the fund and the businesses that are supported in it are in a much better place when I pass the baton on to somebody else.
And you've been doing it for a few months. How have you found the first few weeks?
Very interesting, exciting. There's a number of our clients in the room today, which is great to see. And I thank them for taking the time to come and listen to me to drone on. They've done that once before. But it's what strikes me. I've been in finance too many years. Unlike Amin, I put these highlights in just to give myself a bit of gravitas. But I've been in finance, man and boy. The variety of businesses that I've seen in the last 3 months has been amazing. The enthusiasm and the passion that the business owners have for their particular business is great. They are great problem solvers. They have a different set of problems every day, things that are inside their control, things that aren't. But they roll up the sleeves, they say, right, how are we going to deal with this? And they move on. Not wishing to be too political, but the major thing on everybody's agenda at the moment is how the budget is going to affect them going forward in investment. And I see that Rosebud will be in a position to actually help them with additional costs to bring those growth plans forward. Because some people in the room, the initial thought was, I can't take on any more apprentices. I can't make any more decisions about employing people until I know what's going on. And I think a fund like Rosebud can actually help them with some of those decisions. Obviously, there's additional cost involved, but the benefits that the fund can bring are unique, I would suggest, in the places that I've worked in the past. And that, along with the likes of Rory, the likes of Mark and their teams, it's a holistic approach, which I think is only for the benefit of businesses in this great county.
And Mark, from your point of view, why is Lancashire so well placed to support growing businesses?
I think one of the things is the amount of investment and effort that they're putting into this. It's identified that it's crucial, that it's needed, And I used to do this similar role for an external organisation, and then moved across to LCC. And what appealed to me about that was, what do we want to do? How do we want to shape this? Can we sort of tear the rule book up a little bit and then go again to make it bigger and better? And what surprised me was the amount of effort and support and investment they're going to put into it. So the fact that you've got Rory, myself and Martin here doing slightly different things, of course, largely funded by LCC themselves. So I think the ambition is there, and it's a big statement of intent that, we're doing things like this today. There is all this wraparound support for businesses. And I think that is really, really exciting.
And Rory, I know one of your big things is selling Lancashire outside of Lancashire.
Yeah, it's a massive point. So I'm not from Lancashire, sorry, people, but one of the things that blows my mind is how little we shout about the amazing stuff here. Like, it's really frustrating, because when I was down in London, no one worried about shouting about their successes. Up here, it's like, it's just not the done thing. So yeah, a lot of my work is shouting about some of the excellent businesses that we have, because we have the deals, we have the quality of businesses. I just don't think everyone's aware of it. And it's starting to happen for sure. I was up in Edinburgh last night. They were talking about Lancashire. It's bonkers. I was over in the Northeast a few months back. They were talking about Lancashire. They're starting to say Lancashire's got deals. They're starting to say there's the caliber of business that we'd expect maybe to see in other places. They finally realise it's been here all this time. I just think historically we could have shouted a little bit louder and just, push that LinkedIn post a bit further.
And when we kind of look at evolving, what do you think that is? Do you think it's a kind of a cultural thing? We're all kind of quite sort of awkward and polite about, our successes, or do you think it's something else?
I think it's a mix. Like, I think that culture would definitely play a part, but like there hasn't necessarily been leaders, or as many leaders in the business community that have started to shout about it and set that direction and set that trend. So yeah, we historically probably haven't seen that, but we are starting to see that, I think, with like businesses like Fuse, EV. They're talking about the county more. They're talking about their success. It's the same thing with kind of the exited founders. We need more of that capital from the exited founders to go back in. At the same time, we need to see those success stories so that we can talk about them. Those exited founders can talk about what they did. And we can have loads of those success stories that we can just brag about. And we will brag about it next time. We will shout and scream about it and post heavily.
And Martin, in order to do the selling Lancashire outside of Lancashire, shouting about what we do, we've got to get it sorted within the county first. How important do you think collaboration is when it comes to our success?
It's massive. I'd like to stand here and say Rosebud is the panacea for all things business, but it's not. As Amin said earlier on, in context of the MPIF2 fund across the country, what we can do locally is a lot smaller, but we're focused on what we can do, not what we can't do. So from that perspective, we need to pull people in. We've got a great team that's been put together, as I say, by the council. We've got the advisors even, through Mark and his team. We've got Rory pulling, by the sounds of it, most of the equity houses in the world into Lancashire.
All the northern ones.
Well, okay. Well, that's tomorrow. Yeah. Tomorrow. And that is a great starting point, because a lot of businesses, business owners, it's a lonely place. They don't know who to talk to. They don't know where to go. And that's not decrying them, but they know everything that they need to know about their particular business and their sector. Finance is probably low on the list. So if we can provide them with that support, and it then extends out into other people, other funders, trusted advisors is how I would put it. The accountants, other funds Amin's already signposted, FW Capital and River Capital as examples from MPIF, Protura, etc. I think if we put the client in the centre of what we're trying to do, and then bring in the expertise to them or show them where that expertise is, then they've got options. And we all know that if people have got options, then they make a much better considered decision, in my humble opinion. And that can drive people forward. So if somebody can say they can do everything, certainly in the world of finance, then good luck. But it probably will mean that they want you to take a particular form of finance rather than what is actually best for the business.
Okay, let's see if we've tempted anybody to ask a question this time. So, yes.
It's not tech focus.
Right, okay. I think could this go to all the panel, this question? I haven't heard you mention anything about the value of mentoring and how an entrepreneur mentor at an early stage can actually be part of shaping where you want to be, within Rosebud. I think maybe is it in keeping with Rory, perhaps?
I'll go last. You go
this way.
Yeah, no, from a point of view of, I was only talking to a prospective client yesterday, and they have just taken on support from a non-executive director who effectively has expertise in their particular sector, and realistically, they will help them take them into areas where they want to go, but they don't at this stage know how to do it. It's the Rumsfeld quote of "you don't know," or the unknowns. So I would say, from our perspective, is signposting people, whether it be non-execs, whether it be outside support, whether it be, it doesn't matter who it is, but not focusing on what I can do, because I know what I can do, but actually passing, as I said earlier on, the baton on to other people to say, right, you need to help this business. And if that involves Rosebud, then great. If it doesn't involve Rosebud, then it doesn't matter, because there will be businesses that will need our support.
You can always pass it on to me, can't you?
Yeah.
Just like the mic. Yeah, no, I think it's a really good point in terms of supporting business owners around more than just funding and finance. So one of the key things that we're doing as part of the Access to Finance service is investment readiness work. So we call it the Investment Academy. The reason why we called it that was because we realised that it's not necessarily about transacting. It's more about an education piece. So throughout the process, we'll be working with businesses to help them understand what building blocks do they need to put in place if they're looking for, let's say, equity investment, for example. So what we do is we work with external partners in order to do that. So whether it's around legal advice, tax advice, we've got Patura, I think, are in the room who support us as well. What is the value proposition, how to articulate that. So whilst that's not mentoring per se, it's that education piece that in these really early stage businesses that are looking for equity, to put these building blocks in place to make sure that when they come out of it, we're not necessarily saying that the investment ready, but certainly they would have picked up a lot of important learnings along the way. And that's where we felt that there was a gap in the market, not necessarily around funds and finance, but more around the education piece. And that's the feedback that we're getting from our investment academy. We've run the first cohort. Any dodgy questions, Warren stood up at the back quite timely. He runs a few of the workshops with us, and there's a few of our partners in here as well. So we think that's a real key element, the education piece, not just necessarily getting in front of an investor or transacting.
100%. So, what I probably didn't explain well is Funded is a community. Yeah, we put on events, but it is a body of people. So within that, we have unstructured peer support, and that's crucial. So we have people, not everyone that's coming to Funded is looking for investment. Some of them, or to deploy funds. Some of them are exited founders that want to give back to the community. Some of them are vested people with interest into certain subjects. So a lot of what Funded also happens is, so you turn up to a Funded event, you might go away with between 100k and 10 million worth of cash. But most likely you'll bump into some pals, you'll make some friends that will help you on your journey in one way or the other, whether that's professional services, exit founder, those sort of things. But Funded isn't just like we put on the odd event. It is genuine community. Like, people make friendships. And that sounds so cringy, but like that's what we build with Funded. It is about, I'm not an advisor, I'm an ecosystem builder, and it's a weird little job, but I don't have any of that kind of knowledge. But building communities and building those interactions where people will bump into each other and then potentially come on board as a non-exec or something like that, or something like that, that is as important as bringing those investors to the event. So yes, 100%, yes.
Lovely. Is that any more? We got a little bit of this from Emmott before, Martin, but just talk us through, if somebody wants to get involved in Rosebud, particularly if somebody is interested and thinks they benefit from a loan, just talk us through kind of the process.
I think from a point of view of showcasing the business, you know, if somebody is passionate about what they do and how they do it, then that automatically means that you are more curious, and ask the questions and get to understand, as Miranda was saying earlier on, get to understand what that business is about, what makes those people tick, how do they actually take the business forward. If you understand that, you can kind of get inside the heads to a degree, which is great. But then you need to encourage them to actually put that down on paper to make sure that everybody else knows what they want to do and how they want to do it. The numbers are the numbers at the end of the day. That's the boring bit of the job. I just love to be out and talking to businesses and understanding what they do. And if I can get on board with that as the fund manager of Rosebud, then it makes it a lot easier for me to support them, not only on day one, but, you know, there are clients in this room who have had 3-4 rounds of funding, because we see the vision of where it started and where it wants to go. And that changes. You know, A to B is never in a straight line. So we just look to be there to try and help. So it starts with a conversation. What did they say about a journey? It's taking that first step. So all the cheesy puns aside, I'll talk to anybody, as you can probably gather by the way I'm going on at the moment. But the key thing is that understanding of the business, and where it wants to go. And then we can go from there.
Lovely. Let's have a round of applause for Martin, Mark and Rory.